let's go ahead and get started. And then as we do this, I'm sure more and more people will join. But really do appreciate you guys coming on and doing this space with us. Um, One of my favorite things in this world, and it's been a major factor of mine since I was a kid, is always making sure that we do the best we can for our communities and our world, and through charitable giving and through community service and things like that. I don't think there's a more noble goal in this world. We're here to talk a little about that, but more specifically about how that aligns with your all's project here. Wanted to just kind of do a quick introduction and have you guys kind of tell us a little bit about what you guys have been working on, what your all's goals are here, and kind of what the differentiator between this PFP project is with other ones. Clearly, there's a lot more of a noble cause here, overall. But I would love to hear a little bit more about what you guys are trying to bring to the space.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us, really. This is day before our launch, and really appreciate you guys giving us, this platform to be able to talk about our project. And it's been a crazy weekend for sure. And we're hoping that we can bring, some good news to the space starting on Monday. I know people are kind of emotions are all over from last night's launch, but my name's Ediz, and I co-founded Etched, who is kind of the parent company behind the Prosocialites. I co-founded that along with Brett. I guess in terms of like an individual introduction, I come from a brand management background. So I actually used to play video games professionally. I was a professional Counter-Strike player for a number of years, and then I ended up going onto the corporate side of it, I guess, and worked for a couple video game publishers managing some of their game franchises. So that's kind of what my background is. I got into NFTs or Web3 like mid to late 2020. Micah Johnson, who's the creator of the Aku series, was the guy that got us into the space initially, and he was like super early. I mean, he was, I think, one of the first 3 artists into NFTs, and we got linked up with him kind of mid 2020, and he started telling us about this thing we needed to start paying attention to. And it's been a wild roller coaster for sure. Like back then, like the Top Shot boom and bust, and the art boom and bust, and we've kind of been through a lot. But I guess before I get into too much of the background, I'll let Brett give an introduction also.
Yeah. Hey, and echo the appreciation on having us on here. My background is mostly, or was mostly, in Web 2 product management. Started in strategy consulting, but shifted into software entrepreneurship. So have been building web and mobile apps, both on the agency side and for tech companies over the past 10 odd years. Got into NFTs around the same time Edis did through Micah. We actually founded our company with him. And yeah, I think the kind of like aha moment for me, I was previously working on an earlier version of Personal Corner, the software that Des Bryant is now kind of taken full bore into NFTs. So I think we sort of started the company at a time when we were unsure of what we wanted to be, and filmed this pilot episode, which Edis will probably speak to later, but with Micah, Harold Varner, the third, a professional golfer, about Harold's foundation. And like the sort of idea that we were trying to play with early on was that in talking to Harold's and a couple other foundations and nonprofits, we sensed this like interest in how to get into Web3 and into NFTs, especially once the money started pouring in. But that was paired with this sort of concern about, as a foundation and as younger generations, millennials, Gen Z, and beyond, continue to shift their time into digital and giving into digital formats. There was this big question, and there is this big question of like, how do we create the like support base? So not only like one-off donations, but how do we build a community of people who will kind of give our cause or our organization longevity, and be that sort of predictable and consistent support base to subsist. And at the same time, we were observing the insanity and enthusiasm within NFT communities. So our sort of core mission has been to find the best way to take that community power of NFTs and to kind of steer them toward positive impact causes.
Awesome. No, again, I can't express enough how this community again can be so positive and so awesome that I think that you know this kind of this kind of impact is kind of long overdue. And don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of charitable fundraising things that have happened over the years. I know Metaverse HQ has done a lot of stuff as well, and a lot of projects have had those in their roadmaps. But for a project like your all's, it very much seems like this isn't the roadmap. This is the purpose. This is the point. So it's very exciting to see that stuff kind of come up, here when everyone's trying to flip ape land and all this different kind of stuff. A project that's mindset is set on the better, the greater good.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Edis.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what's kind of funny is like even on our roadmap there is no like stop that says like when we reach 30% of our mint we'll donate $30,000, because the entire like point of the sale is to fund this charitable endeavor that it's not even just like this is going to be what we're calling a pro-social company. So we're funding a company whose entire purpose is to do good work in the space and help the public good. So yeah, I'm glad that you kind of that you noticed that as well.
Yeah, and like I guess there's always that sort of idealistic idea of like do good to do well, like make profit and make money so that you can kind of have more or scale your impact on making good things happen in the world. And we spent a lot of time looking at companies like GoFundMe and Omaze in the Web2 space, ones that are for profit, but where the sort of like logic in their products or services all kind of gives back externally to charities or to good causes or campaigns in some way. So we're really trying to like take that community power of NFTs that's kind of created from ownership and steer those communities into the products and services that we create.
Excellent to hear that. So that's great to hear. And obviously the Prosocialites project is a PFP project. So with every PFP project there is some amazing artists, you'd hope, behind those projects. Can you speak a little bit more about who's helping you guys create these awesome PFPs?
Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to say about the art. Actually, Brett and I, well, I'll talk about what we've been doing with the metadata afterwards. But in terms of the art itself, the artists are Stephen and Courtney, and they are artists or illustrators from the show Archer. So they both won Emmys for their work, and they are just like we're blown away by what they've been able to do for this PFP. Just the when we went to them, we didn't want to art direct artists, let people that are really good at what they do what they do. And so we just told them kind of what the mission of the project is, our values, kind of who we are and who we aren't, what we wanted the characters to represent. And for us, like, what we told them is we want this to be a profile picture that really like stands for something. And it's, I guess the Web2 equivalent of, Web2, when people want to support Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they might have like a ribbon on their profile picture or something like that. Like for us, we wanted this to be like the Web3 equivalent of that, where it's something that you host as your profile picture, and it has a lot of meaning and depth behind it. So they created like this incredibly robust suite of assets that honestly, Brett, how many files is it? It's like 14,000 different assets in total.
I think it's like 12, yeah, but it's an insane amount. And I
Yeah.
see Steven down below us here. So yeah, well, we have some fun updates for you on the metadata, which I think I just will also speak to in a second.
Yeah. So like, I mean, the collection is so diverse and unique that it's everything that you get is going to be rare. It almost kind of flips the whole. People I think are used to seeing like, oh, I have this jacket and it's like a 0.1%. Well, like all the attires, there's almost no repetition. There's maybe two attires that are going to be repeated throughout a collection. So on top of all that diversity, we actually also went through and we wanted to give everything a unique name. So for the past week, we've been hand naming all of the assets. We were literally up till 2 a.m, kind of continuing on, and finally finished last night. So no two items have the same name. And Brett, how many? I don't know how many things we renamed throughout the course of this, but thousands and thousands.
Yeah, I think like, a big part of NFT art and collections is like the lore, the story that you could derive from it. I think we want to put a lot of deep thinking into that as we go forward. But like the important thing for us now was to like name everything in a way to kind of plant seeds for all of that stuff to evolve and to have like a lot of different creative directions that we can go in. So worked with a friend actually who's a professional writer and sort of named everything, named the one of ones. There's 20 of those, and tried to make it such that when the like story behind these characters, or and when we have more time to focus on it, that we could sort of start to create a cool story around it. Because like I said, I think a big thing is that we want these PFPs to be your like digital identity in the metaverse for good things, for good causes. There's like an Easter egg where a lot of the patches or badges and pins on the clothing of the Prosocialites represent the 17 sustainability goals from the UN. And we just think there's a lot of room for using PFPs as kind of like representative of the things you care about, the values and the causes you support, and want to sort of build all the story and the kind of richness of the lore around that.
Absolutely, and in my head, I think of a comparison in the Web 2.0 space of back in, some of you may be too young already, and I hate to say that because it makes me still sound so old, but back in the old Facebook days where someone would support some kind of anti-war cause, or even March Madness, rep your team through your profile picture. Your profile picture, always on social media has been an extension of who you are and what you believe in. So you would say that this is kind of like the Web3 version of that kind of representation, and not only just showing support for your causes, but also, doing a little bit more than just putting it on your profile picture, actually owning that profile picture and kind of giving to the cause in that way too, right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, there's that term slacktivism, which is sort of like changing your profile pictures, but not having it really mean anything, or not really having it backed by any like action. So by buying an NFT or by investing or by having NFTs be a sort of like a proof of that, there's a lot we could do with that as well. So I think like in this first collection, we're trying to think about ways to like, as we onboard charities into the space, like how do we use their maybe we create honorary one of ones for charities. Like how do we sort of merge the art and the organizations that we want to onboard? But I think there are cool ways to do that while there's that sort of third thread of, this is proof of your donation, or this is proof of your action, that we think is really powerful.
Awesome. And one thing that I wanted to ask a question on, quick follow up. You mentioned the metadata, how everything's individually named. I know one big factor here, and obviously this is a project for social impact, maybe not necessarily monetary gain, but the NFT space is so rooted in that as well. That a lot of people are always concerned on like rarity, right? So if everything's individually named, how does that affect the rarity of things when the project is launched? Curious on that to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that we've definitely thought about too, because if you end up with so many assets, then everything's rare. But within that, there's certain things that we kind of cherry picked as like this is a very visible indication of something that's rare, and then we kept those kind of separated. So one example is hands. So I think about 3% of the total collection will have hands that have floating objects in front of them, and so that's going to be a clear indication that you have one of the rare ones. Or I think some of them have like a shark suit. So the ones that are a little bit more like visually very, very unique, those ones are ones that we cherry picked to be the rare ones. It just, for us, it didn't feel like rarity in a collection like this should be determined if somebody had a scar on their face or a pair of glasses. It felt like it should be really something that was truly striking or unique or very visible in nature.
Awesome. Well, appreciate that clarification there. That makes a lot of sense, and excited to see some of those rarities when the project's released. One thing that I know, reading a little bit more about you guys, and I'm a huge fan of puns. I love wordplay, but obviously the fundraising element of this too is really cool. But tell us a little bit more about the Meta Gala that you guys are working on, a part of this project as well. That to me, again, just the wordplay alone, I was really interested. But I'm curious to also see kind of how that's going to function and work out as well.
Yeah, I think if you've been reading up on us, you'll definitely see some wordplay with a lot of things that we do, like the generous term that we've used to describe our community, and for this one with the Meta Gala. For us, we think that the virtual fundraisers are a huge benefit to the nonprofit sector, and so that's going to be an area of focus for us, generally speaking. So we have a space in Sandbox where we want to start allowing different charities to run their galas in a virtual space. It just makes so much sense from just like a variety of different levels. There's no geographic restrictions for attendance. People, even celebrities can attend from the comfortability of their home. Like, they're wearing sweats on the couch versus having to get dressed up and come to some event. It's just so much more accessible. And so that's going to be one of the kind of offerings that we have for nonprofits. But also on top of that, we want to have a yearly event called the Meta Gala, which is a play on the Met Gala. We want this to be a communal event. We want to invite every PFP project that wants to participate and throw something that's going to make headlines in like a great way for the space. We kind of want the focus of it also to be about mental health, at least for this first year. We just think it's going to be a really important narrative when it comes to the metaverse, just because we're going to be spending even more time online than we have been, immersed in these virtual worlds, and it could have unintended consequences. And we've seen that happen in social media, and we feel like let's have the conversations now while we're building this space and kind of put that stuff into the building blocks of the metaverse versus trying to backtrack later when we've done stuff that we're like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, or maybe we didn't think that through as much as we should have. So the Meta Gala, I guess, is going to be in the fall, and it's going to be a multi-day event, probably in Decentraland, unless Sandbox lets people in. And it'll be a fundraiser event focused around, like probably one cause and a couple charities that are surrounding that cause. And we want everyone to participate. We want there to be auction items from all the different projects around. We want it's not just going to be a Prosocialites only event or anything like that. I think the space is all about community. So we'll definitely spearhead it, but we want to make sure that everyone's kind of together on this.
Super cool. And if you need like a Joan Rivers type person to work the red carpet of this Meta Gala, please just hit me up. I would love to participate in something like
that. Sold. I love it. Let's do it.
Great. Well, obviously, you mentioned mental health, and I don't think it's a mystery here in this space that mental health is super important. I think, especially after a weekend like this. There are a lot of great victories, a lot of maybe some failures as well from the community. It's always nice to emphasize the importance of mental health breaks and things like that. So love to hear that about a little bit more about maybe not necessarily the charities specifically you guys have lined up that deal with that, but maybe the general charities right now and organizations that you guys are planning on working with in these kind of events and these kinds of things that you guys already have a kind of a partnership with.
Brett, you want to speak to the Sharewell partnership?
Yeah, so this isn't charity specific, but we're partnered with a software company called Sharewell that focuses on, and they've created a product for peer support, which means small group video sessions, connecting people with the same shared lived experience. So that could be, dealing with anxiety, it could be dealing with, NFT angst. But the idea is that there's clinical therapy on one end, and then there's, I think a good example in the real world is like AA. It's people who get together and kind of support one another based on having had the same life experience. And I think we all can sort of speak to how that exists already in Discord. Especially like take yesterday for an example. There's a lot of people going through stuff and supporting kind of one another or not. So we partnered with this company. They have a software product. They're also kind of interested in how that translates into these metaverses because, I think as there's a version of it where the metaverse could sort of be thought of to be this like dystopian, not so great for social connection kind of world. But at the same time, I think as our interactions and as the technology improves and we could really have like deep, intimate, real interactions with people in the metaverse, then that actually presents a lot of really cool opportunities, both for clinical psychology and also just kind of normal personal connection. If you could have a real conversation with anyone in the world, or if you can have, maybe you could access, professional clinical therapy for less expensive and without having to leave the home with anyone anywhere in the world. There's some sort of like powerful threads there. So we're just sort of beginning to unpack, I think, what that could mean, both from like a product and just like what the future will look like. But right now, the sort of like seed we're planting with Sharewell is to have a Discord channel in our server where people can post about stuff anonymously if they want. So we use a bot that like makes it such that they could post anonymous messages. People kind of weigh in and offer support, but they will be a partner with us in this meta gala that we're planning for later this year.
So great to hear. Love that element of it too. Another thing that I think kind of can fall on deaf ears sometimes is like some of these major brands or companies or organizations, when they do charity funds or when they do, like social impact campaigns, sometimes it can fall a little flat in terms of like just seems a little tone deaf. You go into a Target and round up for X cause. So on one end there, it can seem kind of disingenuous from a consumer standpoint to see all these companies kind of participate in a charitable, or giving way that kind of seems a little bit more rooted in like, for instance, tax breaks and things like that. On the flip side, though, we've noticed that a lot of Web3 projects that some of these major corporations and brands have been participating in have also seemed a little disingenuous in some cases. Curious if your all's intentions as well is to kind of help some of these brands and companies kind of find a foothold in the Web3 giving space that seems a little bit more genuine, a little bit more well connected to these communities. And I was curious if you could speak onto that and how you guys hope to help, bring brands into the Web3 space, not just to put out a PFP project, but to help impact the communities already from a charitable standpoint.
I would say that's one of the biggest things that we're gonna be focusing on moving forward. Like we have our roadmap, obviously, with like events and the show and things like that. But I think kind of almost like overlaying the whole thing is the fact that we want to be this conduit for brands and organizations to enter the space. And yes, nonprofits, because for them they don't have the resources or the know-how to enter the space, and that's like will be the launching off pad for them. But I think we'll also serve as a really comfortable entry point for I almost said non-nonprofits, but for traditional brands to come into the space, and even athletes or whoever it might be. I think we're going to be people that will be easy to align with, and we'll help them launch their charity campaigns in Web3, and at least get a foothold in the space and start to give people the understanding that they really do care about these communities, and they care about Web3, and they're not just in here to make a buck and disappear. So that's kind of always been in the back of our minds, one of the major goals of the Prosocialites. And it's also, when we talk about the art, one of the things that we asked Stephen and Courtney, we said, we want something that's approachable and that these brands would want to align with. So when you're thinking about creating the art, like maybe it makes sense to be more humanoid versus like an animal or something like that. So I was also that thinking went across all the stuff that we've been doing.
I really do love that question though, and that it honestly is the biggest challenge. Had like kind of versions of that have been the biggest challenge for us, because it's like on one hand you want to you don't want to be disingenuous. Like there are a lot of cash grabs too, even outside of charity, obviously, and that's sort of one thing that from the beginning we set out to sort of not go down a path that we didn't want to pursue. Like the NFT technology, I think provides this opportunity to have like a really authentic connection, whether it's from like athletes and creators to fans and followers and collectors, or in our case, kind of more organizational to the communities. And then at the same time, I think like we've tried to message ourselves to as not seem like virtue signaling as well, which is a challenge. But I think the big thing that we've kind of come to find out is that, at least in these beginning stages, we're trying to work with groups that don't just want to like make a lot of money on an auction and then bail, but it's like, hey, we could fundraise with this campaign, but then we will deliver you, thousands of people who are now interested and want to support your cause going forward. So like that gets into I think some cool utility cases with charities. So it's like, okay, we have 1,000 people who own your NFT. Like, can they, attend quarterly board meetings virtually, or like how can they actually like maybe shape where funds are going that the NFTs raised? You could build sort of communities of communities around these causes. And we think that's sort of that like long-term intentionality is what's important, both inside and outside of the kind of charity corner of the space.
That's a great point to touch on, because I know when I contribute money to a charity, I don't typically think in my head, oh, like what is it going to give for me? What am I going to get out of it? But oftentimes charities do provide. I've been thinking of like the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund. They give out tote bags. If you contribute X amount of money, you become X contributor from like a 2.0 standpoint. So that actually brings up a really good question here for the Prosocialites project. When we do mint these, what kind of utilities are you guys planning for this first project? For the holders of those Prosocialites. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to kind of take this for each part of what we're doing. We have a series that we've developed called Etched. The pilot episode's already out. It's the one Brett was discussing, and it's one that pairs an NFT artist with a cause or an athlete, and his job is to turn that into the artist's job is to turn that story, that athlete's story or that foundation story, into something visual, collectible. For us, the NFT space was always super intriguing because you could take stories and turn them into something that's collectible. And that, charities are born from these kinds of stories. So we thought it'd be it'd be cool to take these artists and have, kind of task them with this idea of turning these stories into something that people could then collect or showcase to spread awareness and raise funds for these causes. So that show this is going to fund a full season of that show, and you're going to get an airdrop with every episode that comes out. It'll also, we're not sure what a licensing deal for the show might look like, but like the creative agency that's shooting it for us, they think it has legs, and maybe it would make sense for there to be some sort of a revenue share. Maybe not. Something that we're going to look into. So there's the kind of show airdrop side of this. In the event space, we're going to have a permanent space that's already developed in Sandbox. So we built this, like 3, 4, 5 months ago. We're just waiting for it to be open to public, but that's going to be a space that's going to be for Prosocialites holders. And we're going to continually have, events there every month, whether we're piping in a gala from like a charity that we're associated with, or it's like an educational type event where we have speakers from the space. So that space will exist in the Sandbox. And then the last kind of major thing is the fundraising platform that we've developed. So over the course of 2021, we built and started doing charity drops on the Etched platform. And we want to open that up to become more of like the GoFundMe of the space, where people can do ad hoc drops. And I think the first step of that will be making it available to Prosocialites holders to be able to launch their own fundraising campaigns on there. And then on top of that, the larger collections that we do will cut will go and fund the treasury. And I guess actually one last thing I should bring up too is something that we haven't actually announced publicly, but this is on the merchandising side of it. So we've kind of always tried to take like a build first approach. Instead of just putting something on a roadmap that said like, and you'll have merch, we thought, we needed to build something a little more robust than that. And we got linked up with this group that does merchandise for high school sports programs mainly. And what they've created is this like totally verticalized storefront to manufacturing system where they can do small batches of like jerseys and shirts, because high school teams don't have the ability to buy things in bulk and they don't have the budget. So this group basically, they take like one asset and an algorithm spits up like storefronts, and then they can sell these shirts at like a pretty reasonable cost to these teams. So we thought that had amazing applications for NFTs. And what they're going to be able to do for us is every single Prosocialite will have a custom storefront, custom URL, your own storefront. You own the IP. We don't take a cut from it. You can sell it to other people and make royalties. You can buy it for yourself. But, within a week or 2 weeks after launch, we will basically have 7,000 storefronts created where all you have to do as the token ID holder or token holder is go claim your storefront, and there'll be like 10 pieces of merch already on there pre-populated for you that are custom branded with your Prosocialite. So that's something that we're going to announce, I think, probably tomorrow, but something we're really excited about. And we honestly think that has huge implications for the space generally, because there's always the promise of like, you own the IP, but it's always hard to know what to do with it. And this is at least something that people can do with it right off the bat.
Oh, that's fantastic. That sounds incredible. My question is going to be, for that storefront, okay, let's say that my Prosocialites on, a jersey or on a hoodie, and I sell that on the storefront to, let's say, JJ down here, and he buys that hoodie. Is that the proceeds go to a cause that I pick out, or the proceeds go to me partially? The proceeds go to a cause. How does that work?
We don't currently have it tied to charity. It'll be the proceeds will go to you, and obviously the merch company that's doing the manufacturing. So like us as a company, Prosocialites don't have any. We have no financial gain from it. I think in the announcement I have some wording you'd probably like. I think I said the IP belongs to you, so we have no business being in your business. But what would be really cool down the line, which we want to explore, is doing things thematically for like certain months. Like whether it's Mental Health Awareness Month or Breast Cancer Month, or if there's some sort of a theme, then we can do custom storefronts like branded with that stuff, and then tie that to charity. So there's really easy ways for us to do that, so that we can do these like fundraising campaigns based around selling Prosocialites merch.
Yeah, they like each storefront will sort of algorithmically have all the different composite layers that are built up to combine each one. So like we can, like if it's a specific month or if you support a specific cause, we could like swap in an outfit and sort of like, give your Prosocialite cool layers for different things that you want. So I think that'll like continue to get more involved too as we're able to focus more on it and build more.
Yeah, that's super exciting. It's not something that I've really heard from any other project. I mean, again, you mentioned, you have these IP rights, and you're told that, yeah, you have complete control. You can do whatever you want to with them, and then, if you don't know what to do with them, then they just sit there, and okay, you have a cool PFP, you have the rights to it, but what's next? So I love the you guys are giving the empowerment to the people to actually like take control of that, all hidden behind a noble cause. So that's super super cool to see. Um, Before I open it up to questions, and you guys can raise your hands if you have any questions. Wanted to give you guys a quick chance to maybe brush up on something we didn't talk about, or maybe some more clarifications on some of the things in the project that maybe got overshadowed through the back and forth. But yeah, just gotta give you both a quick second to um, wrap things up before we get into the question part.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think just generally what we're creating here is it's I think misleading sometimes to even say roadmap, because it's more of just an ecosystem that we're creating, where there's a lot of different initiatives that are all revolved around bringing charity into the space. And I think we need more positive headlines. Like $100 million getting burned on gas, it just hurts the space. And it feels like every month there's a story like that, and we just want to. And I think it just hurts the space in general, in terms of what the outside perspective is of kind of the NFT world. I think you guys have probably all had the conversation with people that don't know enough about NFTs, and they're like, oh, like NFTs are ruining the environment, or why do they need to exist? What's the point? Like, why are you guys buying JPEGs? And so we want to start working to change that narrative, and I think that's just going to be good for the space in general. And we think that we can really have an impact doing that by helping bring like large nonprofits into the space, and just create, like I said, just good headlines.
The only thing I'd add is that we want to meet as many people as possible, and so we have like Calendly links on our website. Anyone could book appointments with us just to have like a 15 or 30-minute chat about either the Prosocialites or anything. The best thing about having launched our platform initially in October is just that we've had this like amazing core group of about, I don't know, 300 to 500 people in our Discord and our community, and we've gone through all kinds of probably a decade worth of like events in the space that have happened in a short period of time. So I think that it's a buzzword, but that community aspect of things, and just like forming deep connections with people is what's really made this both the most like valuable for us, because we think we can do a lot more with a big community than we can with like a small round of private investors. But it also is what I think is going to allow us to kind of get to this next level, and to sort of position ourselves as that like bridge for mainstream organizations and larger nonprofits to get into the space. So I mean, to that end, send us a DM or connect with us in Discord, and we'd just love to, especially post mint and that craziness, meet as many folks as possible one-on-one.
Awesome to hear. And no, the positivity in this space is always something that we need more of. A good example is I was at a pizza place late the other night, and the guy in line with me was asked me what I did, and I kind of explained, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like NFTs. NFTs are terrible." And he was an engineer, so he had this whole notion of what it was. And after our conversation, I think he walked away saying, "Oh, all these people aren't just money hungry, people with this kind of intention and stuff like that." So I love the mission there for sure. And one thing I'll say is we do have quite a few questions. So again, if you do have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. But first, he has had his hand raised the entire time. I'll go ahead and give Elliot the floor and have him ask a question. Elliot, you are on, so I got to do is unmute your mic and you can ask.
Hey, thanks. First, so much I love about this, bringing Web3 to impact and vice versa. It overlaps with not only what we're working on, but with so many of the amazing folks we've been meeting lately, which ties into another thread of what you brought up. But just, we've we have a gamified goodwill platform that plugs into a purpose-based metaverse, and we are working with folks who are doing things that are very aligned, either have their own impact coin. And so I love using the fact that you're using Web3 for good. And I think there's some awesome wisdom in the live events piece. And I think, and that you're focused on mental health, I think is particularly as a area of focus for Web3 orgs, I think is brilliant. I would love to, if folks are not aware of, I just met the founder of WarmSpace, warmspace.io, which is basically a P2P, peer-to-peer emotional support or kind of non-counseling platform that I think is a super useful tool or place for people to be aware of, and maybe something to consider supporting. And I think connecting, the power of Web3 and the internet broadly are that it allows us to find our communities, find our tribes that aren't necessarily geographically based, but then we're missing that geographic element, that local and, face-to-face element. But events, I've been lucky to attend the ETH Denver, ETH Amsterdam, and South by Southwest, and just the meeting folks who are aligned so much in spirit, and then spending time with them in meet space, so to speak, is really powerful. And events really facilitate that. And to that end, on a separate thread, we're running as a soft launch for Global Unity in December in New York, Transformative Impact Summit, featuring not only Web3 as a focus of change, but institutional change and regen ag and food systems and 12 other streams, and would just love to feature what you guys are doing. So I don't know, you mentioned that there was a site through which we could book a short call. Love to explore further, but I couldn't find that site. So if anyone wants to throw that in, but just hats off on everything you're doing.
Really appreciate that, and definitely get in touch. If you go to the Prosocialites website and you go to the team page, you can book a Calendly with us from there, or feel free to reach us on Discord or DM us on Twitter. We're here and listening, so we're always love meeting people that are doing good work in the space.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm going to check out Warm Spaces too. Made a note of that. Sounds aligned.
Excellent. So next question is going to come from Becca. She had her hand raised. Becca, feel free to ask your question whenever you want.
Yeah. So I joined hello, everybody. I joined a little bit late. In regards to social impact, what's the context behind that? What is the main purpose of this this space? Just so I'm clear.
So I think that you're talking about the name of the actual spaces. Gotcha.
Yeah, because it says social impact, but are you talking about the other side launch or Yuga Labs, what they're doing, or what's kind of the context here?
So the Prosocialites project here that we're featuring with these two gentlemen here, they have a project that's specifically here to promote the social impact and charitable givings within the NFT community. So their project directly correlates to that. So we're having a conversation on that.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. My biggest question, because I think, and I would hope that other people also think this, I think the biggest problem with the NFT industry is its lack of true accessibility to the general public. So I guess my question is, what are, for instance, yesterday's launch was very disappointing because it did nothing really to invite people that are not inside the super bubble that we currently reside in industry-wise to come in and kind of see what we're about. It is unfortunately, I think, very disappointing. So in regards to what you guys are doing, how are you going about trying to solve the problem of actual accessibility in regards to everybody else that doesn't know anything about this space, which is, the major portion, I think, of the world at this point? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
First of all, that's a great question, and I'll let you guys talk to that for a second, gentlemen. It's a fantastic question, Becca, and something that I often have. It was like, okay, great. These launches come out. If I'm not some crypto millionaire already, like how does this affect me? How can I get involved and things like that? So with a projects like Prosocialites, that's got charitable backing and a kind of a social impact, objective. Curious to hear your all's reaction to that.
Yeah, somebody else. We got that question one other time as well, and I do think it's a good one because it's so true, right? And I would love to say that we're doing a free mint or something like that, but we are trying to fund this. But what I will say is that we've had conversations with groups that we want to work with that are doing this type of work. One example is a group called Good Dollar, and so their goal is to onboard basically everybody in the world with a crypto wallet and start funding that through. I think that they basically the interest that's earned from the DAO starts funding these wallets for first time people that are onboarded into the space, and it gets them involved and it gets them access. So I can't say that we have a perfect or robust solution for that. We want to get more people in the NFT space generally through working with nonprofits and kind of like we were talking about, just bringing more positive and better headlines into the space, but also partnering with groups like Good Dollar that are doing that work and probably have a better solution for it. That's they're building technology specifically for that purpose. So it's definitely something that we're aware of, and I think that's like a great question as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the fundraising platform and everything that we build has an external positive impact outside of the community, whether it's like through donations to a charity or through building awareness toward a cause. So while that doesn't explicitly come with like membership to the Prosocialites community and the value that we like sort of derive from those products and services, it does have a positive effect. So we're just sort of starting there and saying like, instead of exclusively focusing on driving value or dollars or hype to the 7,000 or the however many people are in our community, like let's build things that impact things outside of us. And then I think as we continue to grow and as we continue to move forward, we'll find more accessible ways for people to actually like enter the community. We've talked about like, for every NFT someone buys, you can give one to someone who's new to the space. We ran a donate for Mintless program where anyone who shows proof of donation of any amount to any charity gets guaranteed access on our mint list. That was like really successful. I think we've got close to 300 people and like I think raised around $15,000 through contributions toward that. So our intention is to definitely bring as many people and to be as much of a bridge to new people as possible, both from like a branding, like, yes, this makes sense, to my mom or to my grandma, that I want to be a part of this thing and this resonates with me, but also and increasingly finding kind of more accessible ways and price points to get people like as deeply into the Prosocialites community as we can.
Yeah, and so Becca, that was a great question. I would even say it was a tough question. I probably a question that you guys probably weren't necessarily ready for, but from a commentary standpoint, I think that it's something that is very important to the space. Again, we think of NFTs in these huge dollar amount ways to mint for like 2 ETH, 3 ETH, 4 ETH, things like that. But when it comes down to some of these projects and things like that, like that's not going to be super accessible to everybody. So hopefully we see some of those kinds of things kind of come down as we do see it, especially some of these projects that are leading forwardly from a capitalistic venture, right? They're just here to create a company, make money. Obviously, you gentlemen have other intentions as well. So love that question, love that response as well. I'm going to go ahead and give another question over here to Band of Crazy. Go ahead and give you the ability to talk. So go ahead and ask your question when you're ready. Yep, you should be good.
Hello. Yeah, am I on?
You're here.
Thanks. Yeah, my name is Jonathan, working on a project called Banda Crazy. I just want to first just give a shout out to, I don't know, the amount of effort, thought, and time and patience you guys have put into what you're doing. It's amazing. I mean, really amazing. I wish you all the success in the world. I've got a lot of personal experience, helping people and dealing with people with mental illnesses and dealing with people that are struggling with mental illness. A lot of artists on our team struggle with this stuff every day. I've got a real art world background, and I have, spent years traveling the globe as an artist, and I'm always fascinated that the majority of people that I meet outside of the collectors and whatnot in the traditional art world, are artists themselves, and how every artist is constantly challenging themselves and struggling with themselves, and they all want to do what I am doing or what other artists are doing, and a lot of them struggle along the way with addiction issues and sobriety and mental health and depression and all kinds of things. And the basis of what a lot of the core of what we're doing on our project is more or less of a one-to-one reach rather than kind of the charity approach that you guys are having. And I can really appreciate how difficult it is, what you guys are trying to tackle and the alignments that you guys are trying to tackle. And I applaud you for that. I mean, it's amazing to me, because I know how difficult it is, especially trying to build a project and make proper alignments. I guess my question to you is just kind of a real direct question, is that we're doing a lot of events here in Los Angeles, one-to-one events, social events, teams. There's different meetups pretty much every night here in LA for the NFT community. And if any of you are in LA and would love to come and speak at any of our events, we would welcome to have you. And maybe there's a way we could even figure out to do kind of a live space, a live Twitter space with a live event. We haven't tried anything like that, but that would be quite fascinating. And I'm going to definitely reach out to you guys directly through your website and try to link up and get some more time with something more specific. But really, this is just a shout out to you guys and a big round of applause. Thanks.
Really appreciate it. And actually, we were both based in LA, so we could definitely make that work. So please, get in touch.
I will.
I apologize. I was removing you as a speaker. I did not mean to cut you off there, but thank you very much for that question. And gentlemen, I'll go ahead and you can continue. Sorry.
Oh no, I mean, I was going to say we can talk with him offline, but definitely sounds like there's a lot of alignment there. And like Brett was saying earlier, for us, leading up to the mint, if we could have had 7,000 individual conversations with people, that's how we want to go about the way we do what we're doing. And so the more people we can talk to, the better. And would love to meet up in LA at some point and come to one of your events.
Awesome. Thanks again for that question, sir. And then last question here, we'll do Dario real fast. I'm going to bring you on as a speaker, and it's going to connect, and you should be able to ask your question. Go for it. It does have you muted, Dario, so just got to unmute and you can ask.
Oh, hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Dario. I am a digital artist, illustrator, also a founder of the Knuckleheads Project. And yeah, I saw social impact on your space, and I just wanted to hear more about the project. I'm checking the website out now, and just yeah, I'm very interested in seeing NFT projects that are doing things like this, just because I feel I personally have said this. My own project does this, but I feel like there's this missed opportunity when it comes to NFT projects really doing in real life good and impact to our communities and having that kind of social impact. So I'm always curious to see like what other projects are doing, and I think it's the best type of project because we don't compete against each other because there's so much like good to be done. So I'm just like, yo, I just want to know like what you guys are doing, what you're about, how we can support.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think like missed opportunity is a word that, or a phrase that, when we read this essay from Vitalik Buterin a while ago, like we wrote like a white paper about like charity in Web3, and he had written this white paper about, if all that comes of the NFT technology are these celebrity drops and people making money off of each other, and like it's gonna be such a shame and such a missed opportunity because this stuff is so supposed to be like world improving technology, and it is, you know, and there's so much innovation happening in the space, and we're just trying to channel more of that towards these, you know, towards social impact and good causes. And I think that people want that. People are ready for that. Like, just if you look at the kind of conversations that we're having here. So, and even actually just throughout our kind of, you know, when we launched Etched and just in this whole run up to the Prosocialites launch, we have a lot of people hitting us up about all the things that they're working on and how we can collaborate. And I think it's going to be awesome when, you know, the Prosocialites are launched and we have this built-in community, and then we'll have the ability to say yes and be able to just have this turnkey solution in which we can just support all these different great, you know, causes and things that people care about.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I really do appreciate your all's time here. The Prosocialites project and Etched mission in general, such a noble thing, and very exciting thing too. I think, you know, past even the charitable aspect of this, the communal aspect, and the social impact aspect of this. You know, just the alpha you dropped, where, you know, all holders get their own access to their IPs, but also a shop where they can utilize those IPs. I think that's an incredible utility that I've never even imagined a project could implement. So really exciting to hear a lot of those things. So we really do appreciate your all's time in explaining the project a little bit more. And again, just a quick want to throw out your all socials and website here real quick before we go, and then again, we just really appreciate your all's time.
Yeah, thank you again for hosting us. And yeah, you guys can reach us at, you know, Etched NFTs or Twitter, and we're on Discord at Discord/Etched. And I guess we did talk about the evolution of why is Etched, where the Prosocialites came from. So Prosocialites, for those of you that joined a little bit late, were started by us folks over at Etched. And if you want to kind of see a bit of what Etched has worked on, that's all on our Discord and on the Etched fundraising website at etched.co. So we thought it was really important, especially when we're dealing with charity, to have like a track record, you know, to have already shown that we're committed to this idea. And so we spent over a year developing the Etched platform and launching those collaborations. And so this is the evolution, the next step for us, and we're really excited about it. We are opening up the pre-sale tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific. So we're just right around the corner. We're very excited. 12 or 24 hours away.
That's awesome. Really, really hope that goes well for you guys. Good luck. And again, if you guys have any interest at all in Prosocialites, please, you know, get involved in their mint, the pre-mint, and do everything you can. So we're looking forward to it, y'all, and have a great day.